At the feet of Divine Mother Sree Rama Devi by Mrs. T.N.K Nair, The Early Days, Audiobook, Part 3. Thou of the form of Nada Brahman, thou who expounds the eternal truth, who imparts the highest knowledge, salutations unto thee, O Rama Devi. Even after the attainment of the non-dual state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Mother Rama Devi continued to lead a simple life in prayer and penance and worship of dharma and total dedication to Padi Bhakti. Yet as time went by, the veil was gradually lifting and the stream of her regenerating power flooded over the fortunate souls and seekers after truth who came into contact with her. From the consciousness of her divinity and the abiding wisdom of Brahmanubhava, the fragrance of peace and love wafted from her. The supreme role of the Guru started manifesting in her. Visions of divine significance unfolded to overthrow the self-assumed human limitations. Being Mahashakti, these were the revelations of her own splendorous Shakti emanating from her being. One night, while in deep absorption, she saw a blaze of light shooting out from her heart, and there shone forth in red effulgence the glowing terrible form of Mahakali. The garland of skulls, the severed head of the Asura, the glistening sword, and other emblems symbolized her power of annihilation. Though she appeared as the awesome form of terror, Mother felt only the love of the mighty goddess. As Mother watched, the terrible form changed and the beautiful form of Durga emerged, golden-hued and adorned with gems, seated astride her Vahana the lion. The numerous emblems shining in the 16 hands glimmered like rays of lightning. The form was again changing, and there stood revealed in exquisite beauty and majesty the form of Ardhanarishwara, signifying the truth of Shiva Shakti. Rays of light, blissful and blinding, emerged from the source of all creation. Soon, everything was obliterated in a light which condensed and re-entered her heart. At times, when this vision surfaced, Mother felt that her body could not contain the power, nor her feet rest on earth. Such upheavals would have shattered an ordinary person, but the Almighty Mother contained the power within herself. Her father knew that she had monumental work ahead of her and that her health had to be preserved. Even during Mother's days of sadhana, witnessing her austerities, seeing her going without food and sleep, he prayed that a perfected soul should be there in the future to serve Mother. It came to pass that a daughter was born to his eldest son in the year 1930. Intuitively, Gopalakrishna knew that with the little baby girl's birth, his prayer had been answered. He named the child Tara. In later years, seeing in Tara the great bhavas and unmistakable signs of divinity, he once told Bhagavan Sri Krishna Bhagat that his mind was at rest and that he was thrice blessed, for two Shaktis had made their advent in his family. Here, I will relate the nature of another experience towards the end of Divine Mother's 12 years of sadhana, Bhagavan desired to go on pilgrimage to various temples sometime in the year 1934. So, accompanied by her parents, they travelled to Benares, Haridwar, Delhi, Agra, and Allahabad in the north, and Rameshwaram, Tirupati, and other shrines right down to Cape Comorin in the south. To Mother, the idols in the various shrines were never mere images. To her, it was God sporting in innumerable forms to arouse faith and devotion in devotees. In every temple, she felt afresh the tumultuous ecstasy of inner communion. When bathing in the sacred tirthas, she experienced waves of purity submerging her and felt afresh the glory and reality of God. Mother and Bhagwan performed with scrupulous care and humble reverence all the rituals and rites prescribed at each shrine. In her approach to life and its values, there was true inner worship, imparting dignity and holiness to traditions. At Allahabad, they crossed over to Triveni Sangam and, under instructions of a Purohit, performed various rituals in the middle of the river. All around them was the great confluence of Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati. The winds wafted a rare fragrance of holy felicity. With invocatory prayers to Ganga Devi, they had already taken their bath. They were going to perform a special ritual considered auspicious for wedded couples. A lock of mother's hair had to be cut by her husband and dropped into the holy waters at the culmination of that special prayers. She had heard a legend that instead of floating, the lock of hair would immediately go down deep into the waters. Her whole being completely absorbed in the spirit of worship, she was looking down when the lock of hair was dropped. A wonderful sight greeted her eyes. A golden light spread on the water, and from its blue-green depths, two lovely bejeweled hands emerged. Higher and higher rose the lotus-like palms of dazzling beauty, with bangles and rings gleaming in the water. The two hands folded in reverence, opened and received the lock of hair. Then, closing over it tenderly, the hands disappeared into the depths. Mother stood enraptured, lost to the surroundings. Her whole being thrilled to the significance of the event. O Mother, Tripura Sundari, Ganga Devi herself had manifested to receive thy gift. In later years, in the role of a spiritual preceptor, marvelous transforming power manifested through her samadhi, bhava, touch, or even by her mere glance. At Tellicherry and on her visits to Mangalore, groups of women attended Mother's bhajans and talks. Some came out of curiosity, others from devotion and to experience the divine inflow of bliss from Mother's darshan. It so happened that a woman shunned for her immoral character was drawn to Mother's bhajan. Not wishing to draw attention to herself, she seated herself in a far off corner. Meanwhile, the bhajan continued in an ecstasy of devotion. Mother was still merged in samadhi, in the infinitude of light and peace. Perhaps repentance was evoked in the woman's heart. Suddenly, Mother came down to partial consciousness and moved swiftly to that corner. Mother embraced her and gave her the garland she was wearing. As suddenly as Mother had come, she retreated and was in again samadhi. The woman remained there, still and silent, in utter oblivion of her surroundings. Such was the all merciful gift of redemption that she turned over a new leaf and remained a virtuous devotee of Mother till her end. In this narrative, I have to relate many of the mystical visions and rare sublime happenings which generally characterize all great incarnations. All these are a part of their lives, gleams of radiance emanating as streams of miraculous power from their divine magnificence. Immeasurable is Mother in the zenith of her Ishvara Bhava, which can never be measured by the yardstick of human intelligence. During one of her visits to Mangalore, Divine Mother with her mother and sisters intended to visit a nearby temple on an auspicious day. Discipline was the motto of her life. Mother had her bath well in advance and was ready standing near the front door with the tray of fruits and flowers to be offered. The others took their own time to get ready. Even after the supreme attainment of non-dual realization, in her normal states, there was utmost devotion to God and His supremacy. Even as she stood there, the first peal of the temple bell for Arati sounded in her ears. The spirit of intense adoration rose up in her with an inner urge to offer her worship at this auspicious time. Immediately, she lost body consciousness. The temple was about 2 furlongs from the house. She came back to consciousness and felt somebody shaking her. It was her mother who was calling to her and patting her again and again tenderly. A few ladies had gathered around her. Mother found herself seated in the inner veranda of the temple. She could not remember how she reached there. Nobody had seen her on the road. Others in the temple had seen her entering the temple the moment the bells started pealing, proceeding straight to the shrine and offering the tray of flowers with folded palms. Then she had gone round in pradakshina and seated herself on the veranda. They had also noticed a curious fact. She seemed unaware of the outside world, her eyes indrawn and aloof. It was in this state that the mother and others who were late found her. She was calm and tranquil, but the others were awed at the supernatural happening. On her visits to Mangalore, Mother was free from all household duties. From morning till night, streams of devotees flocked to the house. Singing bhajans and talking to them, Mother often would be in a state of samadhi for hours. So, with loving care, the parents tried to give her some nourishment in the rare intervals of body consciousness. It was in those intervals that the subtle truths signifying each vision surfaced in her, remaining in Dvaita Bhava as the seer and the seen. Mother experienced again and again that infinite bliss. One night, during that visit to Mangalore, returning partly to relative consciousness, Mother came out of her room and, still in that self absorbed mood, walked out to the veranda on the first floor of the house. It was past midnight. All around was the hushed silence of a sleeping world. Mother stood by a pillar, perceiving the immanent power in nature. Suddenly, in an awesome experience of absolute consciousness, tremendous power welled up in her. A vast blaze of light burst forth and radiated from her with divine luminosity. And as in a panoramic vision, she witnessed pageant after pageant of creation, the variegated universe of names and forms, indeed countless Brahmandas, emanated from her into the vast spaces of infinity. The exultant awareness of cosmic motherhood soared and expanded in her as an indisputable reality. Then that endless cosmos of creation, wave after wave, merged back into her heart. The duality merged into one sovereign power, and she plunged into deep samadhi. Early next morning, her parents found her there. She was standing as still as the pillar she was holding. World shaping forces had been in play there, and the impact of that vibrant force still emanated from her. Their hearts opened out in prayer. Later, when she came down, partly to body consciousness, they gently led her indoors. The mood of absorption continued, and try as they might, they could not coax her into taking any food. Later in the morning, as usual, the father proceeded to his puja room for his morning rituals. Having just witnessed such an extraordinary manifestation of divinity, he felt a vibrant rapport and communion with his chosen idol, Durga. Under the spell of that spiritual intoxication, intense devotion rose in his heart. In that state of ecstasy, he saw as if in a dream the figure of his daughter coming and sitting near him. Her eyes were half open, and he could see that she was still in a superconscious state. Knowing that she was indeed the incarnation of Durga, long had it been his desire to offer her worship. Now the golden opportunity was at hand. In an effusion of joy, he began offering the flowers at her feet, enfolded in the aura of her power. He saw his daughter transformed into a luminous figure. He beheld the majestic form of the Durga of his worship, with 16 arms, adorned with celestial ornaments and seated on the lion. For some time the resplendent figure shone before him. We have read in the Puranas of the subtlest nature of Devi as Shiva and Shakti, of Devi bestowing on Himavan the vision of her cosmic form, of her appearance to her bhaktas in the forms in which they worshipped her. This too was one such unfolding of Devi's imperious majesty. It was a blessing bestowed in the fullness of force and compassion on her father. After long moments, the divine form slowly vanished, and he saw before him his own daughter absorbed in samadhi. Overcome by the vision given to him, he fell prostrate at her feet. In that moment, Mother came down to the state of Bhavavesha. In the sovereignty of divine motherhood, she addressed her father as Putra and placed her hand on his head in blessing. She was in a plane above all earthly consciousness, above the subject object relationship of the world. In commanding tones, she assured him of her eternal protection. It was the assumption of identity with Godhood. It was the wielding of omnipotent power to grant boons. Even as I write, I am reminded of several incidents in the lives of world teachers where earthly ties have been subjugated by divine will. We have heard how Sri Chaitanya, the epitome of Matra Bhakti, placed his feet in blessing on the head of his mother in the Bhavavesha of Sri Krishna. The human mind cannot reason or analyze these rare moments of divine intervention. From these gleanings of the father's life, parts of mother's life are revealed as well. The picture that emerges is of a treasure house of spirituality, a veritable fountainhead of perennial joy. If a few drops from that fall on our parched lives, we are blessed. Another thought-provoking incident springs to mind. One day, while Gopalakrishna Shenai was out on some work, he met a sadhu he had known years back. The sadhu was in animated discussion with another man. He was eulogizing the Gita and the Lord's immortal words that he would assume name and form time and time again to establish dharma. The other person said such divine beings and God realized persons could not exist in the present day world. People were far too credulous, he said, and charlatans were being passed off as preceptors. The dialogue was extremely lively, and it was at this juncture that Gopalakrishna Shenai came on the scene. The sadhu was very pleased to see him, and breaking off the conversation, came to speak to him. The sadhu said he had been in Badrinath and other holy places for years in quest of realization of the divine. He had come to Mangalore only for a short stay. Gopalakrishna Shenai had great reverence for holy persons such as this sadhu who were true seekers. So he invited him to his house for dinner and thus blessed his family. He also told the sadhu with a smile that he had heard their discussion, and if the sadhu wished, could give him the privilege of meeting a God-realized soul. The next day, a suitable repast was arranged. When the sadhu came, Gopalakrishna Shenai paid his obeisance and presented him with a set of ochre robes. After the meals, he asked Divine Mother, who was there on a visit, to meet the sadhu. With her simplicity and humility, Mother offered all respect to the sannyasin and, seated by her father's side, requested the sadhu to speak about his experiences and enlighten them. The sadhu spoke for some time. Then he began to elaborate on the ascent of Kundalini Shakti, how diverse experiences come to the sadhaka as he reaches each chakra. As he was explaining the abstruse truth, it so happened that he made a small mistake. In her human power, such was Mother's innate courtesy that she would never have corrected the sadhu. But beneath that simple human garb, there resided the Supreme Shakti, Mother Kundalini, the vital power in man, the knower of all. At that moment, that Shakti supervened in the exultant power of Devi, and maybe to enlighten a true seeker, Mother began to speak. Her words resounded with power. They clearly defined the ascent of Kundalini and the mystic experiences of each chakra. Finally, describing the ascent to Ajna Chakra, the sixth mystic spot, the gate to the secret path to Sahasrara Padma, the final merger in the Absolute, her words stopped and she was absorbed in Samadhi. As she sat austere and aloof, the atmosphere was vibrant with the force of that which was said and that unsaid. The sadhu sat there as if turned to stone. The father too sat still, filled anew with wonder. He was hearing for the first time such words of wisdom, comprehensive and definitive of every step in the ascent of Kundalini to that all-encompassing consciousness, the Absolute. An hour passed, and the father gently told the sannyasin that Mother sometimes continued to remain in Samadhi for hours and that he was free to go. But the sadhu said, "Oh no, please allow me to remain before this holy presence. Even in the midst of my solitary retreat, complete control of the mind and indriyas was an impossible task. But in the midst of Grihasthashrama Dharma, your daughter has attained the exalted peaks of yoga and conquered the formidable realms of Maya. Let me be here in prayer at the feet of this great being as long as I can." About 3 hours later, Mother came down to body consciousness. Deeply shaken and with tears of devotion, the sannyasin prostrated before Mother and addressed her as "O Jagadamba." The veil had fallen, and in him arose the certitude that before him was the Shakti he sought, the Mother of all creation. He told Mother in intense vairagya, "I renounced the world longing for God realization. I was blessed with the guidance of a Guru, and in seclusion I was practicing Raja Yoga. But unfortunately, my Guru attained Samadhi, and ever since I have been unable to proceed further. Divine destiny led me to you. Your words of incredible wisdom have enlightened me and cleared my path. Let not the darkness of human delusion blind me to your divinity. You are indeed Sree Vidya, the fountainhead of wisdom. The lofty secret of yoga can be truly revealed only by you. I have realized your all pervading power and that your blessings can guide me even in any far off cave. So I can go back now strengthened and illumined. He took from his bag a much handled, handwritten manuscript and said humbly, "For years I have been writing this, an English commentary on the Gita. All who read it praised it, but I did not have the money to print it. Now I have realized that all scholarship is of no avail, and that far above the frontiers of the mind and intellect is God realization, which can be gained as the Supreme Mother's merciful gift. Direct experience alone is of value. Hence, I am destroying this effort of the intellect and am going back to Badaryashrama armed with your redeeming grace." He prostrated again. There came from deep within him the heart-rending cry of a real seeker, "O Jagadamba, bless me." And from the universal heart of the Mother, unending compassion poured on the devotee. The immortal words of Sri Shankara praising Tripura Sundari springs to mind. "O Devi, having pierced earth in Muladhara, fire in Swadhisthana, water in Manipura, air in Anahata, ether in Vishuddha, Manas between the eyebrows in Ajna, and having thus passed through the entire Kula way, thou spottest in secret with thy consort Paramashiva in the 1,000-petaled lotus Sahasrara." Many were such sannyasins and seekers of truth who had come to the Mother's feet to perfect their sadhana and receive guidance. I remember one sannyasin telling me, "Even in the sphere of empirical knowledge, one needs guidance. The most painstaking recording of phenomena is valueless without interpretation and analysis. Everywhere in the scientific world is the spirit of enquiry. Even the student who works exceedingly hard on his own does not hesitate to acknowledge the need for a teacher. If this is necessary in the world of sight and sound and touch, how much more so is the need of a teacher in the subtle world which is beyond the mind and intellect. To find a guru in the truth sense of that word is rare. To have the opportunity to come to one like the Mother is a gift from God. She had answers to questions I asked and to those I did not. Such seekers went back to their mountain retreats and ashramas, inspired with the power and enlightenment given by the Mother, with the realization that she was indeed the Mother of all. I will quote here the words Mother once spoke about avatars. Divine incarnation is embodied grace. He is the path, the truth, and the destination. He is the life-giving voice. He can bestow on the suppliant soul redemption from the bondage of samsara. He alone can give that priceless boon as a measure of his mercy. In the year 1945, Gopalakrishna Shenoy went to Bombay to see his ailing son, who had expressed a great desire to see his father. It was destined to be his last journey. He was taken ill while he was staying with his eldest daughter, who was also in Bombay. Though all medical help was given, he told his family that neither the doctor nor the medicines would be of any use. He had known the time to leave the mortal frame was at hand, and even before leaving for Bombay, he executed all deeds regarding his properties. He had but one desire, and that was to see his daughter Rama once more. So he asked her to meet him at Telecherry station on his way to Bombay. Both of them knew it was the last farewell. During the final days, he remained unperturbed. With his consciousness anchored in the divine, he witnessed dispassionately the closing days of his earthly sojourn. With absolute calm, he told his dear ones that his duties in life were over. Often they heard him repeating gently his daughter's name. His wife once anxiously inquired whether he desired to see his cherished daughter if she should be sent for. His face lit up with inner radiance, and he replied, "I took leave of her when I saw her in Telecherry, but she is with me always. I feel her blissful presence, so what need is there to call her? I am repeating her name because it is the power that grants liberation from the cycle of birth and death. In the future, that name will be enough to illumine humanity. That name will be the boat that will take numberless souls to the shores of Mukti. There is no difference between her name and form, for she is the complete manifestation of Shakti." Thus ended quietly that sublime life. On the 13th day after the father's death, mother was sitting in her home in the afternoon, absorbed in meditation. Suddenly a glorious effulgence enveloped her, and all around swelled the Omkaranada. In the midst of the light, she saw the gleaming outlines of a heavenly chariot. As it approached nearer and nearer, she saw before her the divine face of her father sitting in the chariot with folded palms. Tears of ecstasy welled in her eyes. Her hair stood on end at the reality of the vision, and in homage she bowed down. Then everything liquefied into pure light. The light coalesced and entered her heart, and she was absorbed in samadhi. Gopalakrishna Shenoy's life was uniquely that of India, a land where religion is the breath of life and moral uprightness and the backbone of culture. In him shone the quietude of a yogi. In the pilgrimage of life, he practiced fully the varieties of life with perfect dispassion. Even to a stranger, he would be fascinating as one who lived the Hindu way of life with all its vibrancy and vigor. To us who are devotees of the Mother, his life is doubly wonderful because he was chosen by the gods to be the father of our Guru, Divine Mother. Mother often referred to him as the first to recognize her advent, and as one of the few to whom was revealed the divine dharma and the role he was to play in it. Silently and completely, he fulfilled that role to the last moment of his life. It was many years after these events that I first visited Mangalore. Once I accompanied mother to her ancestral home. It was a big, spacious house with an old world charm. As mother's brother, who was living there, had a small family, most of the rooms were closed up. I saw the rooms mother used during her visits to her parents, the terrace nearby, where she had stood in samadhi the whole night after the stupendous cosmic vision, the large front hall, the place of so many bhajans and gatherings when mother's father was alive. There was the puja room where he had the vision of goddess Durga and where he had worshipped his daughter as that self same goddess. Was it a subtle aura of that mystic experience that still lingered in that holy room? I yearned for a way of traveling back in time to those glorious days. It was a strange and moving experience, this half step into the past. After going over the whole house, we came and sat in the front hall. As mother talked about her father, I felt that memories were stirring and vivid recollections and thoughts of the father were sweeping over her. Gradually, mother lapsed into silence. On the wall in front of me was a portrait of Gopalakrishna Shenoy. It showed a striking personality, the face calm and dignified with the power of spiritual realization. It seemed but natural to feel in the surroundings the imprint of the noble personality. I recalled mother once telling me that only chosen souls, divine and a part of the Almighty, assume human garbs as the mother, father, husband, or wife when God incarnates himself in the world. Mother sat still and silent in samadhi, and I too sat silently before her. Scenes from mother's earlier life seemed to pass before my vision. Peopled with figures of the past, shadows came to life and distant voices murmured. A spell of enchantment wove its web over me as I pictured mother's childhood and girlhood in that home. There, the young child, under the parents' benign care, had soared into transcendental realms. There she must have stood ever apart, her mind in mystic absorption and ecstasy of God love, yet mingling in love and quiet service in the household. One after another, the stories and incidents I had heard of her childhood passed before me, a pageant of divine events. Silently and humbly, I paid my heart's homage to that hallowed place, sanctified by the golden footprints of the Immaculate One.